No creative conflict. I think some people thrive on this idea of layouts getting ripped up and having heated fights about story ideas. I don't think that's a great way to launch a brand. I mean, maybe when a brand needs to be renovated and you're 30 or 40 years into doing your media venture, that's great. From our perspective, everyone has to be on the exact same bus, on the exact same page. Otherwise, there's no way of getting it off the ground. No eating at your desk. Absolutely essential. Aside from the crumbs and everything they get in the keyboard, it's of course essential, as we all know, to have good discipline on the editorial floor. I apologize for today, but if any of you are advertising clients, you would never, ever, ever see a PowerPoint presentation from us. We have no walls in our office, I mean, other than, of course, the four walls surrounding us, but there are no editorial walls in that sense. So we have a completely open newsroom environment. So there is no art director or creative director sitting down the hall, cocooned in a wonderful space, watching YouTube all day. It's completely open, and I think also that whole notion of intuitive communication, not just what crosses your desk in terms of a memo that's been circulated or an email, but just being able to listen and also read the room internally, we think is incredibly important. No freebies or press trips. Very, very unusual in the British market. I'm not sure what has happened in Germany of late, but we don't take any free trips and tend not to indulge PR as much either. And no user-generated content. And if there is user-generated content, it hits our desk the good old-fashioned way, and that's because a reader feels that they've got an outstanding tip. They send me or Andrew, the editor, an email, and we'll decide whether or not we want to act on it, and we'll act on it by commissioning our own writers and photographers to go and deliver that story. Just some other facts about the project. It took us 2 years to develop it, and as I mentioned, we came to market exactly a year ago. And we only went for family investment. I didn't want to speak to any smartasses and any private equity firms and who would always say, well, why are you doing a magazine now? I mean, that was always sort of the first question. And we did 1 or 2 meetings like that. And I thought, well, what's the point when you're trying to speak to a room of potential investors and they think that the future is exclusively digital, don't see the relevance of print. So we said, perhaps the best way we should go about this is we should look for investors who are also readers, people who really believe in what we're doing, who actually understand what the brand is about, and would probably see themselves going to the airport, going to a newsstand around the corner and purchasing this. So you're not having a heated discussion every time you have a board meeting. So we ended up finding investors from 5 countries, from Switzerland, from Sweden, from Spain, from Japan, and from Australia. And yeah, just all families in that sense. Quite well-to-do families, but also none of them in media either. And so far so good. All of the board meetings have gone off swimmingly. The original idea for the magazine, we were going to call it The Edit, but there was a grumpy doctor in Australia who owned the title and didn't want to sell it to us. So Richard, the creative director, and I were sitting in the office, and when we got the news that this gentleman wasn't going to sell us the name, and it was one of those moments where I just thought we need to do something which sounds established, something which sounds like it's been around for a while. I thought no one talks about monocles anymore. I've not seen people wearing them recently. But there was this idea of sort of a single focused vision, and we quite liked that idea. And then I called a dear friend and mentor and advisor, my friend Anna Urbauer, and I asked her what she thought of it, and she thought it was very Weimar, she said, and it had all of the right connotations of one of your former foreign ministers, and I thought that also sounded good as well, and it was enough to go and sell it to our investors, and then buy it from someone in North Carolina who actually had monocle.com, and we said we were setting up a student newspaper, and it still feels like that some days as well. But anyway, we were able to buy it for a very good price. Today we have 37 staff, and that's 28 of them are editorial, and we're based, obviously, headquartered in London, and then offices in New York, Zurich, and Tokyo, though the Zurich office is currently not staffed. And if anyone wants to go and work in Zurich, then come up afterwards and talk to me. I just wanted to go through some of our ideas. You're probably familiar with the navigation of the magazine, A, B, C, D, E, affairs being global affairs or political affairs, business, culture, design, and edits. And I guess it goes back to, we were trying to create a metaphor for the way I saw people purchasing magazines, because that gentleman or that woman who is buying The Economist or buying Der Spiegel, I was thinking, well, how do you reward them and give them a treat? So that was the whole notion as well, that we make people work quite hard, I think, in the front of the magazine, and then you get to the business section, and you get to culture. And so the deeper you go into the magazine, the more it pays you back. And this is just an overview of covers. From a design point of view, I just want to show you, when we started, I mean, we wanted to obviously have a very strong, sober, black cover. We've stuck with that, but what we found is also, when you don't get great placement in the newsstand, it demanded after about 4 issues that we had to add a bar across the top. So just to have some type of visual device, when obviously magazines are stacked in front of you and you don't have that much visual real estate for the consumer, then we added the bar. Did split covers. This actually has been our most successful cover to date. It was our look ahead to 2008, so it was our double issue that we did over the Christmas period. And you'll actually see in the next issue, which is our April coming out, we've also gone for another illustrated cover. And this is the one which is currently on newsstand. And I've actually got some treats at the front. I know that people never, ever, ever ask questions in a German audience. But I've got some Chibo coffee at the front and also some copies of the new issue. So 5 best questions can get copies of the new edition. There's just some basics in terms of what we do when we're obviously sitting down to story meetings, when we're looking at pitches come across our desk. I think probably for the first 8 to 9 months, so really meaning probably the first 6 to 7 issues, probably 100% of what hit our page really came from the editorial floor. So we were young. If ideas were coming in from other writers, they tended to be just a little bit off. They weren't quite right. I think that was very important, I think, for developing a very focused and singular vision. I'd say today we've probably taken about, probably 30% of the stories are now pitches from freelancers all over the world. We shun celebrity. There are no celebrities in our magazine, and that's absolutely essential. We really see that as quite a key pitch. We're like a spa or an oasis away from seeing Amy Winehouse yet again, as if we haven't seen her enough. I think we also invest in sustaining writers and photographers on the road as well. So it's not just go buy a ticket on EasyJet, get the story in 2 hours and try to come back. If the story demands 4 days, we've built an editorial budget and have that level of investment in the magazine that we can actually keep people on the road, which is obviously key. I think we're always out to support small business and craft. It's been very odd actually being away from advertising meetings and being away from the editorial floor since Wallpaper, so that's about a 5-year gap. And I can't believe that the power that some media brands, meaning advertisers, and also some PR companies have. And we're quite strict about our relationship, and I'll come back to that a little bit later. But I think also because of the power of big brands, and I think because we have an opportunity, because we are a global magazine, we really want to be able to support small businesses, and no matter where they are in the world. And that's a whole sense of always helping our readers spot the opportunity, whether it's something they want to invest in, whether it's something to be inspired by. But we see that as really almost a key political statement for us. We want to look over the horizon. We're a 10 times a year magazine, and we can't be there to just report on what has happened. So we always try to take much more of a forward view when we look at the world. And we don't play to a specific region. In a way, we'd rather not play to the UK or to the US market, in fact. And if I think of the US market, it's actually one of the reasons why the US is the fastest growing market for us. It's the #1 subscription market for the magazine. It's for that very fact. And it's quite interesting because very early on we went to visit a lot of US advertisers, and you'd take them the magazine and you'd explain what you're trying to do, and they'd say, it's a really great idea. The only thing I would change if you really want to get our money is that if you just cut out the international stuff.